Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's class. As we all know, on our last class, we did auto layout, or we introduced auto layouts. We did some practice on auto layouts. Today, we are going to further that. So, I'm going to further work on the auto layouts, and then we are also going to create a few projects. We are just going to, I'll bring, we are going to work on it together. So, and then I can then, after the class, I'll give us those design templates to go and work and send back to me. Just, so that, it's going to help us to practice and better master what we learned in the class. So, I don't know if I should kick off. I don't know if I should wait for other persons to join in, or if we should just kick off the way we are. Because if I should kick off now, I won't really be repeating myself if some other persons begin to join in. Or if we should just kick off the way we are. Okay, I think I should just begin. Yeah, let me just begin. Anybody that comes after now, well, like I said the last time, they'll just try to cope. Hopefully they can. If they cannot, the video is always saved on YouTube. They can always revisit the video and watch everything that we have done, and then follow along. So I want to begin a fresh project because before we're working on this particular project file, but I want to begin a fresh project because I'm just going to run through, introduce what auto layout is again, and then teach us some new, I would say, concepts still under auto layout, and then we just start practicing. I'll drag in some simple design template because this is a very practical class. It's a very practical class. There's really no need talking and not actually practicing. So we all know how to create design file. You just click on this create, and it's going to take it to the design page, at the same time creating a new design file for you. So if you should navigate back, you'll see the file there created. So you're going to rename this file. You can decide to create a new file if you want. You can decide to just continue with the other one, but if you are continuing, that means you just have to create a new page here. I've taught us how to create page. You can just do that. Right? You just have to click this button to create a new page. Why is my mouse not showing? Yeah, you have to click this button to create a new page. So, sorry, the screen is slightly distorted. I had to just try to zoom in so that I can accommodate that. So let me just balance my screen. Okay. So here I created a new file. I will call it maybe auto layout, something like that, whatever I want. And then click on enter to save. And quickly, let me just introduce what auto layout is again. In Figma, we could decide to use frame. Frame is actually like a model of every other element. Frame is what is representing the device we are working on. So if we are working on probably for the desktop interface, obviously we will not use this kind of resolution, because this obviously is for a mobile interface. So therefore we use something like this that is much more landscape. Or as well, we could come here and just select to work with desktop, right? Look at it, still gave us a landscape and not a portrait resolution. So frame is, like I said, is a model of other elements. That's one. And then secondly is what represents the device we are trying to work on. We're working for mobile, we use frame to represent the mobile, the size and all that. So we could create square. Now, one good thing about frame, I just created a rectangle. No, this is another frame inside the frame. A rectangle. You could create. I've already taught us how to create. You just come here, you select it. Now I'm using shortcuts, so I believe by now it would have been used to the pattern. So we could create a rectangle. Let me give it red. Yeah, why not? I give it red. I duplicate that rectangle. Control D is for duplicate, right? I could. Let me see if I can do that from here. I should be able to do that. I don't really work this way. I always use shortcuts, so that's why I'm not too. Or we could copy and paste. Control C, Control what? V to copy and paste. But I always prefer using what's it called? Shortcuts. So I just duplicated that. What's it called? This rectangle. Let me give it a color of blue. Yep. And let me still duplicate it again and give it a color of maybe pink, or something else. Pink. Yep, these are good. So if you notice, I can easily move all this. Let me increase this music. So if you notice, I can. Oh, my bad. If you notice, I can easily move these rectangles freely inside the frame, right? Freely inside the frame. So the reason for auto layout is now in design has to your design the structure of your design has to be consistent, right? The structure of your design has to be consistent. If every element is aligning to the left, they have to align to the left, unless if you want to explicitly align them to the center or to the right. There should rarely be a situation where you randomly scatter elements this way, right? Unless on a very rare occasion or on very rare occasions, right? So, but on most of the times, according to professional design principles, the design has to follow a particular structure. And then obeying that structure. Now, those structure, like I explained with this FIGMA design here, if you notice, the distance between the left side of the screen and each of these elements is equal, is very much consistent on all of them, right? And the same thing with this other side too. So you could decide that you want to align your design, your elements to the left. Achieving that, thank God for Figma, it has given us this ability to snap objects, right? You're moving one object, you can easily tell if the objects are aligned, are vertically aligned or horizontally aligned, But that is still too much of a pain in the ass to keep on moving objects around this way, trying to align them properly, right? Why not just use an auto layout? You give the auto layout a particular setting, and any element you add. Now, here now, if I want to add maybe another rectangle, I'll add it, and then I will have to start, dragging it this way to align, right? And then the space between them too, I'll have to try to measure them and do all that to get it to be equal, right? Which is the way it's supposed to be. If you look at all these rectangles, they are aligned vertically and horizontally, and the space between them are consistent. That is professional design. So you should not, you can do this way. Of course, I did it this way. The spaces are equal, they are aligned horizontally. Is it horizontally? Just, you know what I mean? So, but of course, this is a very stressful way of doing it. I could also, maybe I want to now work with this one. So, I will still have to start going through that stress and all that. That's not a very good way of working, right? That's why we have auto layouts. We could convert this frame to an auto layout. So an auto layout is just a frame that you can, how do I put it, give an instruction on how to lay out the element inside it, right? Let me come again. An auto layout is a frame, but this frame now, you can give it an instruction to automatically lay out the element inside it. So every element inside the auto layout is automatically going to obey the instructions you give to that auto layout. So now let me convert this frame to an auto layout. I come to this place. I could just use Shift A as a shortcut, but I could also come and click this button here. And if I convert this frame to an auto layout Figma always try to give the default setting, or I would say the initial setting of an auto layout. So whenever we convert a frame to an auto layout, it will look at the elements inside the auto layout and it will see how they are arranged. If these elements are arranged, let me increase the size of the space up. If these elements are arranged this way and I convert this frame to an auto layout, it's going to then, the last time I explained the different types of I would say alignment for auto layouts. You could align them vertically, you could align them horizontally. So, but this one, because they are already almost vertically aligned, it's just going to obey that and then align them vertically, right? And then if they are aligned this way, even if they are not properly aligned, right, but all of them are aligned one after the other, it's going to still align them horizontally. So, but this way, now that they are this way, it's going to use that wrap. So let's convert it and see what will happen. I click. You see it has added a new column called auto layout, and then look at it is using the wrap, right? It is using the wrap. So the wrap now is going from left to right, and then because there's no extra space here to accommodate this guy, it has come to the next part, right? And there's also no extra space to accommodate this guy. Of course, remember that there's this space at the middle. So if this guy wants to stay, he's going to start from here, and if he starts from here, it can't fit into this place. That's why if I should increase the size of this frame now, you see that it's going to go to the right. So that is the idea of wrap. It's going to take as much space as it can take to the horizontal, and then whenever it can't take extra space, it's going to wrap and begin from the next line. So I've already explained all this before. Yeah. I already explained all this before. So basically that's what auto layout is, and then from here you can set it to align in the middle. So no matter the distance, how you are increasing it, all the elements are going to align in the middle. You can set the distance between the elements. Now the distance this is just a summary because I've explained all this before. The distance are 3 to 7. I can set it maybe to be 50 because they are now 50. I can set the height. Okay, because there's no element down, the height won't really matter at this point. But let me reduce it so that one of them is going to go down. Yeah, the distance between up and down, you can set it to be maybe another 50, or let's say 25. Okay, let's say 50, sure. 50, that's going to be noticeable. So because we set the element to position at the middle, that's why it's this way. We'll set the position to the left, to the right. I already explained all this before. And then you could set the left and right padding. If I set it to be like 200, it's just going to increase the, what's it called, this space between the left and the right of the frame from the content inside, of course. And then this is the up and down padding. If I set it maybe to the 200 still, it's just going to increase the space. And then I don't think last time I explained fill. Yeah, I explained how to make elements fill the container, and all these rectangles now, all of them have fixed height and fixed width, meaning that we are the ones setting the height, right? Figma could help us to let me just convert this auto layout to horizontal so that I can better explain this. So now all the elements have fixed height. All of them have fixed width and fixed height. So but Figma could help us to set it. How is that going to happen? Figma is going to check the size of the external frame, right? And then if we set the elements to fill the external frame, that's the current parent auto layout, it's just going to fill it, just as the name implies. Now all of them has fixed width. So even if I increase the size of this, all of them, they will still just maintain their sizes because this is the size I gave it, right? But I could set that, okay, this first one, the width, it should fill. Look at this. If you look at the screen, let me just zoom in a little. So if I select this guy, and I come to the width and I go to fill, you see that red arrow from left to right. I don't know if you can see it, but what's that telling us that It's going to take as much space as it can to the horizontal direction. So let me click on it and see to look at. Because of course there is a padding here, a padding of 200 pixels. There is an element here that has a fixed width of 399. There's other two elements here that have their own fixed width of 284 each. I just duplicated them, and each of them have a distance of 50 pixels. So when you combine all of them, these are all fixed values. So this guy, that is, his value is dynamic. Dynamic means it's not a set value. It's just taking the maximum space it can take. Of course, it cannot shrink these guys because these guys, they all have fixed width, and of course the what's it called, the padding is also fixed. This padding too is also fixed. So it's going to take as much space as it can take. Any extra space that's remaining in the frame is what it will take. So for instance, if I increase the frame again, you notice that it is only that guy that is increasing. The rest are just remaining the way they are because their width is fixed. Same thing, maybe let me set this red. Let me set its height to fill the container. Okay, you just noticed a little because there was a little extra space. You know this guy is taller than the rest. So at this top here, there's a little extra space here for the rest to fill. So if I should increase the size of, the height of the frame, every other one is going to remain the same because they all have fixed height. Only this guy has, dynamic height, because his height is set to fill the parent frame, which is an auto layout. So, and then on the auto layout itself, I could give it a fixed width or a fixed height. Of course, by just coming here and set it, I've taught us how to do that. But at the same time, I could also set it to hug its container, meaning that it's not going to allow any extra space to remain. Imagine that I give this guy a fixed width of, let's say, let's just give this fixed width of, let's say, 300, right? Now, and then I increase the width of this frame. Of course, there is an extra space remaining here and here, right? But if I set it to hug the contents, it's going to shrink until it is just wrapping around the immediate, I would say, it's just going to assume the width of every element inside it combined. What I mean is, if I select that, it's going to shrink. We have what's it called, a padding here of 200 pixels. We have a width here of 300, and then we have internal padding of 50 pixels each. Internal padding of 50 pixels. If we calculate all their width, including padding, we're going to see that that's the current width of this frame. And because it is hugging the content, if we should increase the width of any element inside, it is just going to increase according to that element. So it's just going to assume the total width or the total value of the width of every element inside combined, right? Let me just quickly check to see. Please, if there is any maybe question or so, you can quickly drop it. When I see it, I'll quickly respond. On the comment section. So basically, that's what auto layout is. I've already taught us how to individually set them. You can individually set them, and then of course you can set the what's it called, you can set the width between elements, that is the horizontal gap between elements, to be as big as you want, right? I just clicked them and I'm dragging. Of course, I could type it in, but you can also set it to be negative, so the elements are going to overlap each other. So this based on just how you want the design to be, right? So I think for now we are good on auto layouts. At least I believe we are good on auto layouts. Like I promised us for today's class, what we're going to do, I'm going to drag in some design templates, and we are going to start working on them together, because talking and not practicing in programming is not progress. Programming, application development, design, whatever, is not progress. So that's what we're going to do. I have a couple of design templates here. Let's begin from this simple one. Oh, it's small. Let me just delete this. So I have this. Just this is just like a model. In design, it's called like a model. Such pop-ups that you try to enter an incorrect password is just going to give you a prompt. So basically, such a design, you could begin from anywhere, right? You could create a frame. You create a frame, and then you give the frame. This is basically what I'm just going to do. After this particular design, I'm going to import another design and work on it together. So much practice is what we'll be doing from from now on. And then I would this one has curved edges, so I'll curve the edges this way. I think 10 should be okay. No, 10 is not okay. Maybe 20. Yep, I think that's it. So here now, what else do we have? We have this square. I'll teach us how to grab icons in, but maybe not for this class. No, our next class. In our next class, in this class, I hope we cover enough practice. And in our next class, I'll teach us two things. Which one is principles of design, and then the other is how to work with icons on Figma. Because every design, of course, need icons. So I'm looking for this X. I could also just create it though. Okay, that's it. Okay, so I have it here. I placed it in the middle. Now, if you notice, I can just basically move it and place it anywhere. This is not a very professional way to work. It's not good because nothing is restricting my movement. So what I should do is I should come and then I should convert this frame to an auto layout. Now I've converted the frame to an auto layout, and then the width is hugging the content. Let me see. Yep, let me position it, align it at the middle. Oh, this is not even inside the auto layout. No wonder. So I'll drag this into the auto layout. Yeah, that's the reaction I expected. So this is what we have at the moment. The reason is because the auto layout is set to hug the content inside, which is the normal way we want it to be. We could give it a fixed height and a fixed width, right? We could do that, but well, I could do that, right? But that's not how I want to work. The reason I don't want to work that way is because I always prefer setting my width and my height from the contents inside. That's going to give a better dynamic design. So if the content reduce, this is also going to reduce. It's more dynamic, right? So now let me undo that. We have text. Let me select this text here. Password not correct. Check the password and try again. I'll duplicate that text because I want to, this should be at least bold, right? This is more informative, so this should be bold and bigger than this from design principles. So I don't want to work with the same text. Check the password and try again. Okay, this should be maybe 10 or 11. Let me just give it 11. And then this should be not regular but bold, right? And then the color, let me just pick this color here. Do the same. So yeah, I can just pick it from here now because it's the same with one at the top. But I think I want to set this color to be deeper than, because it's a heading, so it should be deeper. So now I'm going to look at the elements on my layers panel. I'm going to drag it into this frame, right? This same one, so I'm going to drag it into the frame, right? You can see now that the frame is extending. Now the frame is set to be horizontally aligned, and that's not how we want this one to be, or that's not how this one is. So we can set it to be vertically aligned, and you can see that it is all So you can just click and use the arrow button up, press up. So now this is supposed to go up, right? So now it has gotten the arrangement we want, right? Okay, the distance between these two is smaller than the distance between these two. So in that case, I'm going to create an auto layout for the both of them so that I can individually set their distance. Now distance is 10, I could make it 5. Yep. You're welcome. Roots. So the distance is 10. I just made it 5, so that it's, I think I should make it like 2. And let me do something. Let me just check to see if something is set. Yep. So in that case, I'm going to make this 5 or 10. No, 8. I pay attention to these things. I have a very strong design background, so anyways, so instead of me dragging the height this way, right? I don't like doing that. What I like doing is setting the height by giving enough padding. That way it's going to be much more dynamic. So now we have 10 pixels padding up and down. I could give it maybe like 50. Let me see, 50. Is that too much? No, I think that's okay. I think that's okay. Up and down 50. Okay, this is that's not very important. I just wanted to say it's smaller than this, but it's not very. And then for the left and right, yep, I'll give it a padding of let's say 25. Nope, padding of let's say 35, 45. Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, that's good. This is too dark. Let me reduce the color, which is a fill actually, but color. FIGMA just decided to call it fill, but it's still color. So okay, these two is too dark. Let's just give it gray. So let me just increase the font of this guy. Let me give it like 14. And that means this I'll be giving it 12. Oh yeah, see what I'm talking about? Because we use padding instead of fixed width. When I increase their sizes, it increase the width, which is what we want, right? So now we're going to reduce it to 40. Nope, 35 maybe. Yeah, I think this is good. So we just succeeded in creating this, and this is an assignment. So everything we created today, everything we create today is an assignment. So you are going to create it, send it to me, and just send it on the group with your name and your location. You are welcome. That's the custom. Anybody that comes, I welcome them, right? So we're done with this, which of course is a very good achievement. I'm sure we can all do this on our own, and we should. So how do we differentiate it so that you just I would send all this to the group. Yeah, I'll send all this to the group. So but what I want you to do for me is, instead of just writing password not correct, write your name. Yeah, so that I'll be sure you didn't just resend what I sent. So write your name. Write it this way. Maybe password or Alex. Password is not correct. Alex password not correct. Just add your name to it, right? Just add your name to it so that I'll be sure you did it, right? And then you export. I already taught us how to export. You select the frame. You come down to this. You click on that. You could, this 1x now is just talking about the size. So this is the actual size, right? you could set it to be 1.5 times the actual size, right? You could set it to be 2 times the actual size. So if I should select this 2 and click on export, and I could select the file type, I want to export as PNG, JPEG, SVG, or PDF. PNG is always better for just normal use, right? Of course, you could, export as PDF or SVG or JPEG, but for normal use, right, PNG is always good, and then you can preview. I taught us that before. So if I should export this way now, it's going to have times 2 of the original size of this file. So we're done with that. Let me look for the next template. And if we have questions, please, you can go ahead and ask on this, so that it doesn't seem like I'm just rushing. If you have questions, you can go ahead and ask. So this is what we're working on next. This one now, of course, is just a very, very straight design. Just a single frame with just an auto layout. The elements are aligned vertically. So whenever you see a, what's it called, a design template, and you want to recreate it, you have to first of all analyze it, right? Here now we have elements. We have a frame that has a background of white, right? I don't think that color is white. Is it white? Okay, it's white. But the background is white. Let me just be sure. I'll select this one, come to where to set the color. I'll click on this eye picker. I'll come to this. It's white. Yeah, it's white. It's white. I wanted to see. This one is looking to me like it is. It's looking to me like it is slightly gray, right? But it's white. So you analyze it. What am I seeing here? I'm seeing a frame. Let me zoom in. I'm seeing a frame. Like if I was asked to recreate this thing now, I'll analyze it first. I'm seeing a frame that has a background color of white, right? That of course the sides are curved. That is, it has border radius of this one now is 20. But you just have to note it. You won't really know. It's not something you can easily guess until you start playing around with the values. So, but this one, because I did it here, I know it's 20, right? So the frame is white. It has a background color, a fill color, just the way FIGMA calls it, of white, and then it has what's it called? A border radius of value unknown for now, but has border radius. And then because elements are aligned, if you look at these elements, this one is not to the right and this one is scattered this other way, we can see that they are aligned in a consistent pattern. So we should know that this frame is an auto layout frame, right? It's an auto layout frame. So that means the frame is an auto layout, it's not just a frame, right? So that's another thing to note. And then how are the elements aligned inside the frame? The elements are aligned from top to bottom. So obviously the auto layout is not, if the elements were, if maybe this X is here, we can easily say that okay, the auto layout is from left to right. That's horizontal alignment. Now let me select the horizontal so that we can see how it looks. If I select it, look at the X is now here. Some design are this way. Now you can easily say that okay, this one is from left to right, right? But this one now is from top to bottom. So we know that it is vertical from top to bottom, right? And then the next thing is, because in auto layout, the distance of each element must be equal. So if you have 10 elements in auto layout, the distance between one element and the other element, let's say you have element A, B, C, D, E. The distance between A and B must be equal to the distance between B and C. Must also be equal with the distance between D and E, and so on. So, but if you look at this, you can easily deduce that the distance between this X and this first text here is not the same with the distance between this first text and the second text, right? It's not the same. We can all see that. If I should quickly do a measurement, just why not? So this is just one simple trick I use in FIGMA. I'll just draw a rectangle from one edge to the other edge, right? From one edge to the other edge. I have the height of this to be 19. If I duplicate that and drag it down and place it at this edge here, I'll see that, of course, this one now has gone beyond this. So I'll have to shrink it to bring it to this other edge, and I'll see that the height is 9. So obviously the distance between this and this is not the same. And it is not allowed in an auto layout. Meaning that if all the elements are individually sitting inside the auto layout, if all the elements, this is a single element, the X, this is a single element, this is a single element, if they are individually sitting inside the auto layout must give all of them equal distances. So that means these are not all individual elements. What I can deduce from that is, I would say this is a single element, right? This 2 is also a single element. So these 2 are individual elements that is inside either a group or an auto layout of their own. So if they are grouped together, that means the group itself is a single element. So the auto layout, this main frame, is now working with this and these 2 as a single element, which is a group or an auto layout. That is what I did here. So if you look, this guy is a single element, right? And then these 2, they are also a single element. If we look at this frame here, we can see only 2 elements inside. This, which is the X, and this, which is for these 2. Let's just try something now. If I remove these 2 and place them inside the frame, I'm removing them from the auto layout, right? You will realize that the gap between them is no longer something I can control. Because I want to reduce, if you look at this, the gap between these 2 here is smaller than the gap between these 2. And here now, if I should come and increase the distance between them, let's say I set it to 30, just for instance, you would see that it affected everything. Because maybe I might want to achieve that, the design might be that the distance between this X, let me come back to this. The design might be that the distance between this X and this is about 30, right? I will then set the entire distance of the auto layout to 30. That means the distance between this and this will also be 30. But according to the design, this is not 30. So what I will do is, look at it now, they are now very far apart from each other. What I will do is, I will then create a single auto layout for just the both of them. I'll drag them into the auto layout, and I'll align it properly. And then I will then work with the auto layout. So this auto layout now is now working for just these 2 elements. This auto layout is working with this as a single element and this as a single element. But if I want to work with these 2 elements inside individually, I will then work with this outer auto layout. So I can then control the distance between them. I could set it to be 10 or 8 or whatever I want. So their distance is not going to be influenced by the distance of the main auto layout. Instead, it's going to be influenced by the distance of their own immediate parent auto layouts. I'm sure we understand what I mean by that. So I think the distance between these before is 10, Abi. Yep, I think it's 10. So this is the analysis I can deduce. In some designs, right? Well, we'll get to that. So whenever you see a design you want to replicate, you have to first of all properly analyze it. So if I want to analyze this one, what am I seeing here? I'm seeing an auto layout frame that is gray. The color doesn't matter for now. I can easily pick the color, that's why I say it doesn't matter for now. And then I'm seeing 3 different rectangles, right? 3 different rectangles. And I'm seeing 3 different texts. The text now are, I would say, titles of the rectangle. So of course, we have seen this kind of thing before. This is like a login form or a sign-up form where you enter your name, you enter your email, you enter your password, right? And then when we look closer, is it closer or closely? Whatever. When we look closely, we would see that the distance between this, which is this rectangle here, and this is smaller than the distance between this and this. So what this is just telling us, and when we also look closely, we'll see that the distance between this and this is the same as the distance between this and this, which is also the same as the distance between this and this. But the distance between these 2, that is this, and these 2, which is here, is not the same with the distance between the text and the rectangle. Instead, when you combine these 2 together, their distance is equal to, when you combine these 2 together, this other distance. So if I want to replicate it, it's not charging. if I want to replicate it, what this thing will tell me is, first of all, this auto layout is what's it called? A vertically aligned auto layout. That's the first thing that I would deduce from this. It's a vertically aligned auto layout. That's one. Secondly, each of these elements are not individual elements inside this auto layout. Because if there are individual elements inside the auto layout, this text and this rectangle, their distance must have to be the same between, with this rectangle and this other text, which of course will also have to be the same with this text and this rectangle, because in an auto layout, all the distances must be equal. I don't know if we are getting it. So they are not individual elements. Instead, what they are is, first of all, we have the main frame, and then we have this text and this rectangle inside an auto layout. So we are not working with 6 elements inside this frame. Instead, we are working with just 3 elements. This one and these two are 2 elements inside an auto layout. So we are going to create a single auto layout for these two, and we are going to give the auto layout the distance between the elements. We'll create a single auto layout between this and this. We'll create a single auto layout between this and this. And then we'll now put the 3 auto layouts, which are single elements inside this main auto layout frame. And then we can then set the distance between elements inside the main auto layout frame, which is actually this distance. Because this is a single element, this is a single element, this is a single element. So we can then set distance between this and this as a single element, and this and this as a single element. So I just want to walk us through it so that we can understand, and then let me go ahead and implement. So first of all, what will I do? Let me just look the width and the height so that I don't guess. We have 5, 9, and 5 to 6. Should I begin this way? No, I don't think I want to begin this way. Oh, let me just begin this way. What I want to do is I want to create a frame here and give it a fixed height and a fixed width, and then start creating the element inside. I could begin that way, or I could begin by creating the elements and then wrapping it up with an auto layout frame. Let me do it that way. First of all, we have a text. I'll create the text anywhere. I'll create it anywhere. I'll call it name, right? Okay. I'll call it name. Here, this text is not bold, so I'll just come down here and make it. I think it is. Yep, it's medium. It's regular, and it's 14 pixels. We can see that, of course. If I bring it here, it's the same size. It's 14 pixels. Now I have one of the elements. I'll create this rectangle. I could do it anywhere. The trick I do, I'm sure we all know the trick. I'll place it on top of this guy and just try to place it on top, and I'll just to get the actual height, I'll drag it this way. So now at least I'm sure of the height, right? I don't really care about the width at this point because I want the width to fill the entire container. Remember, I told us that we could decide to set we could decide to set a static width and height for our element, or we could decide to allow the external frame to set its width. So we could say, okay, we want it to fill the entire space in the external frame. So in that case, even if the frame should enlarge, and that's a much more responsive design, pattern, because your design could be used in different screen sizes. So if you give all your design elements fixed width and height, whenever let's say you design it for a screen size of maybe 300 pixels. If somebody that is using like 500 pixels, like a tablet, is now using your design, it's not going to be structured, beautifully the way you designed it. So, but if you set it to dynamically expand and contract according to the size of the frame, that's going to be a much more professional design. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I've gotten the height of this. I'm not going to bother about the width because the width is going to be dynamically set by the external frame. So, but the other thing is for the corner radius, right? Sorry, for the corner radius. So I'll come here. We all know how to set that. I think I'll give it 5. Let me see, 5. Yep, I think that's it. Yeah, 5. So now I've gotten it, and then the final thing I'll pick the color. I had to set it to this red so that I can distinguish one from the other. So I'll just come, I'll pick this color, and that is it. So I have my first element and I have my frame. So I can go ahead now and move it out, right? So first of all, I'll create, no, let me not create it. No, let me not create it. I won't create it. I wanted to say, because if you remember the way I explained it, I said these two, which is these two now, they are in a single auto layout. These two are in a single auto layout, these are in a single auto layout, and then the three auto layouts are added inside this frame, which is an auto layout, so that I can set their distance and also set the items inside this auto layout. I can also individually set their distance. So, but I could just directly create an auto layout from these two because that's what it is finally going to be. But I won't do that now because I will allow it to all be single elements, individual elements inside the main auto layout so that we can see the disadvantage of working with it that way, right? So now I'll proceed to create this other one, which is, I'll just duplicate and then I'll drag down. I'll call it email because that is what it is. And then of course I'll just also duplicate this and drag it down, right? I'll duplicate the text and call it password. I'll call it password because that is what it is. And then I'll do the same for the rectangle. I'll just duplicate and drag them. So now we have them this way. So I call the other auto layout this time around. We created a frame and then we converted the frame into an auto layout. Select all these elements. I want to create an auto layout for this element. I will then come here and then I will select use auto layout. If I select it, it's still going to create a frame. Which frame and convert the frame to an auto layout, or you can select an element and just wrap the element with an auto layout. So if I do that, it's going to I set it to align its elements to the middle. Okay, it's supposed to do that, but because this text is set to fill the entire width, it's not going to what's it called? But let me set it to hug. If it is set to fill, that text is going to fill the entire auto layout frame. But let me set it to hug so that it's then going to shrink down to the size of the elements, of the text elements, right? Please, if I'm too fast or if we cannot understand, we can just be free. Tell me in the comments that I'm too fast, I should explain something better. Trust me. So now, if I select this frame, and now I set it to center its element. If I set it to align this element to the right, it's going to align all of them to the right, right? Set it to align the element to the. So let's say, in fact, let us just do something. So I will just try to manage the network. Zubi, I'm sorry about that. It is general, I think, because I'm also struggling with network here. So, but I'll just proceed. If if we can't totally follow, I mean, we could always come back to watch the video, right? We could always come back to watch the video. So, but as I was explaining, if maybe what we want in this particular design is to have, let's say, this email to the right, we can't achieve that because the entire frame or the frame itself will control the entire elements in the frame. So we can't say, okay, some will position to the left and some will position to the right, right? We can't do that. So that is one reason why we have to give one reason why we have to work with the structure we will soon get to work with. And then another thing is, just as we have here where the distance between these two is different from the distance between these two. In this case now, if you look, the distance between these two is the same between the distance between these two, which is not what we want. If we say, okay, let's reduce the distance and favor and achieve this is also going to be reduced, right? Let's reduce it to 10, for instance. Everything has reduced, which is not what we want. So So that is what will then finally bring us to, we just have to know that to be able to control this and this individually and this individually, we have to frame this and this in an auto layout. I just selected the two of them. I'll come to this place, I'll click on use an auto layout. Now these two, they are a single element, right? I'll do the same with this. I'll do the same with this. So we now have 3 elements inside this auto layout frame. Before we were having 6, which is this text and this rectangle, this text, this rectangle, this text, this rectangle. But now we now have 3 elements, which is this first auto layout, this second auto layout, and this third auto layout. Even if we look at our, what's it called, our layers panel, we're going to see this is the main auto layout, and then this is the first element, this is the second element, this is the third element. So in that case, like we wanted to achieve where we have this email text to the right, we could select this middle and set its own position to the right. So we have achieved that. We can only achieve that if we give it its own auto layout, right? So, but of course, we want it to be positioned to the left. So now we have gotten that. Now the next thing that is remaining is for the distance between each of these elements, not the distance between this element inside. No, the distance between the main auto layout, the element inside the main auto layout. So we can come and we can set that to maybe 25. We will just, test the values and then we'll finally get the values. Okay, I would say we have gotten that. Now the third one now is to achieve this entire frame. To do that, we could use padding, right? We could use padding left and right, but let me just go ahead and manually set it. Now the reason it is increasing this way is because, like I told us, for dynamic design, it is always good to set it that your element inside, it's for most of the elements. Of course, for some elements like icons, you want them to retain their original size. For something like a text field, which is this, you want it to be dynamic. So as the screen is increasing, it doesn't just remain the way it is, right? You want it to increase with the screen. So instead of giving it a fixed width here, I will then set it to fill container, which is what we did in all this. Set it to fill the container. But one thing we will not forget is the container it is filling is not this exterior, what's it called, auto layout. Is its own parent auto layout, which is this. Let me quickly do something. Let me increase the height and even give it that background fill. So I'll just come, I'll pick this color. I'll pick this color. Right, I just did that. So let me align it to the top and then drag this onto the down. Yep, okay, well, I've gotten that. Now, like I said, one thing we should notice, we have a main auto layout frame, which is this entire frame, and then we have 3 individual auto layout frames, right? That is actually the structure of this, right? So now these 3 individual frames, we can set them to have fixed height, fixed width, right? I could say use fixed width for this last one. So in that case, if I increase the main one, the last one is not increasing because I set it to have a fixed width. Even though I set the internal rectangle inside to fill the container. The internal rectangle cannot fill the container and then go beyond the actual container, which is the auto layout. The auto layout is set to a fixed width. It is set to a fixed width, right? So even though its internal rectangle is set to fill, it will just fill this auto layout, which already has a fixed width. So if we want to achieve this where everything is stretching, first of all, we'll have to set the auto layout to fill, and then we'll now set the rectangle to also fill. If we should set the rectangle to have a fixed width, the auto layout is filling, but the rectangle has a fixed width, right? But instead, we want the rectangle to also fill. So in that case, as the width of the design is increasing, it is increasing with it. It is much more a responsive design structure. But if we notice there is a space here, there's a space here, how to get that is to then set the padding, because now it is filling. That's what we want, but it is filling to the very edges, right? But how to then give extra space here is to set that there should be a padding left and right. So now I can't, let me just use like 100. I can't directly guess it, but now 100 is too much. Maybe 60 or 70. Let me use 70. Yep, or 80. I think 80 is good. So I think we have gotten what we want. So in this case, if we stretch it, it is increasing. If we're using it on a smaller screen, it is reducing. For using it on a bigger screen, it is increasing. For using it on a smaller screen, it is reducing. Now let me quickly just teach us something. It is very, very important. Thank God I remember. There are some cases where, right, now it will stretch infinitely. Let me keep increasing and keep increasing and keep it increasing. And sometimes, of course, it's not very good. You have a form that is stretching from here to this point. It's not very, very professional, right? And let's say you also reduce it. Somebody is trying to use it on one very tiny screen. It's not good. You have a form that is just looking like an icon. It's not good. So sometimes, in as much as we want it to stretch and to contrast with the screen, we also want it to have a maximum width to which it can stretch to. I don't know if you understand that. Let me quickly go over it. If I should set this guy to a fixed width of 257, I also set the three of them to fixed width of 257. I will just convert it to fixed width, so it's going to assume the width of the size of the value of the current width, and I increase this frame. Look, it's just going to remain the way it is, and that's not what we want. We want that it elasts and fill the entire width, Abby. But like I just said, sometimes it might get too long that it's not going to look good anymore. So what we want to do is to dynamically set that as the screen is increasing, the width of the auto layout is increasing, or the width of the element is increasing to fill. But when it increases to a certain point, it's going to stop increasing. So that is, we are setting the maximum width to which it can increase to. We can set the maximum width, we can set the minimum width. So we can set it that it will increase to fill the entire width, right? But when it fills and increase to a certain point, it will stop growing. It will just remain that way. So we can set the maximum width, we can set the minimum width. So now in that case, this is what we will get. First of all, now let me properly position this item. They are positioned to the left, which is not very good. Position it to the middle, right? So in that case, when we are reducing, it's sticking to the middle. If we're increasing, it's still sticking to the middle. This is a better way of doing it, right? So, but what we want to do now is to say it will keep, like I just said, it will keep increasing in width. If you get to a certain width size, it's going to stop increasing, even though the screen keeps increasing. Sometimes that's what we want. So we're going to select the elements. We'll select the element here. We'll come here and set it to fill the width, right? It has filled the width. Let me give it, let me say this is the maximum width I want it to have. I don't want it to increase more than this. Let's say that is what we want. I don't want it to increase more than this. So I've set it to fill the width, right? Nice. But I can also open this place. Look at add maximum width. So now the current width is 630. That is the width I want it to be, the maximum width. So I don't want it to go beyond that width, even though the screen size increases. So in that case, let me set this to fill the width without setting a maximum width, right? Sorry, I set it to hug. Without setting a maximum width. So now we have this has a maximum width, but it also has it is set to fill the entire width, but it also has a maximum width it should not exceed. This is set to just fill, while this has a fixed width, right? So let me reduce. These two are adjusting according to the size of the frame, right? This one is just there. Now let me start increasing. If I'm increasing, you'll see that the both of them are increasing, but when it gets to a certain point, this one has reached its maximum width, so it is maintaining the size I gave it. While this one is just stretching like one more. Well, it's just stretching, right? So that is, sometimes we might not want that, right? We might want to maintain a certain width size. So in such scenario, we are going to give it just what we did here. We'll give it a maximum. So here I'll also come here and set it. It's already set to fill, right? I'll also add maximum width and set the maximum width to be 630, which is the width of the other previous one. And I will do the same for here too, because I'll first of all set it to fill, and then I'll give it a maximum width of 630. You can give it any maximum width you want, of course. So now we have maximum width. It can reduce, see it is reducing, but when it is increasing and it goes beyond that width, it's going to stop. So we have maximum width. We also want to set minimum width. So probably, I believe this minimum width is good. Yeah, this width is good for minimum width. So I'll come here now, it's 300. So I'll come and set. Look at the maximum width is set to 630. The minimum width, I want it to be 300. So I'll set a minimum width of 300. So let us just test run it and see how it's going to be. So as it is increasing, they are all increasing because I've given all of them maximum width. They are all, maximum width. They are increasing. If I start reducing, they will all be reducing. But when I get to the set size, look at this one is going to remain the way it is. This other one will keep reducing. So that is not what we want. We are going to set this one, give it a minimum width of also 300. You know, we can do that. It's not like that is very necessary here in this particular design, but I don't want to tell us that that's possible. So in some cases where we will need that, we can do it, right? So it is increasing, it gets to a point, it stops. It's reducing, it gets to a point, it stops. So this is, I would say, I believe we have achieved this. We have achieved this. Oh, this is bigger. Yep, I think that is it. So I believe we have achieved it. Let me see if we still have time. Oh my gosh. It's almost 8:30. Let's quickly proceed to application development. This is at the end of today's class. So what I want from us today is to now here on this email part, I'm going to export it and send it to the group. You're not going to write email, you're going to write your name. Just the way I wrote my name here. Let me just be sure you did it, right? Please, I don't want to talk more on much on our assignment. I noticed that we are not even attempting to do the assignment. I'm not really going to stress on that. Let me repeat myself. I noticed that we're not really, trying, even making any effort to do the assignment. Just very few persons are doing it. I'm not going to stress on that because on the last class, I emphasized on the fact that we all are busy, right? Personally, I'm making a lot of sacrifice being on this class alone. Taking this class. So much sacrifice on myself. I'm currently, I would say, I have a lot on my plate now. I have a couple of projects. I'm working on people on my neck to deliver because, but I'm still trying to create out time for this. So if you are in this class, you know what you came to this class for. If you don't want to be in this class, it's okay. But if you are in this class, you know what you came to the class for. So I can't stress to teach and then stress to give assignment and then start following us around, reminding us to do the assignment. I won't really do that. So let us just try to, if we are giving assignments, because the formula for learning anything tech is 20% of learning. So this knowledge that I'm giving us this way is 20% of our learning journey. The remaining 80 is to practice. So if you want to actually learn, which is to get to the 100%, you have to practice 80%. You have to fill up the percentage. The remaining 80% will be practicing. Because this thing I'm doing here cannot give you more than 20% of what you need. It will only give you 20%. The remaining 80 to actually learn is practicing. So that's why I'm trying to give us this assignment. So I need recreate this. I'll send it to the group. Recreate this, and then from this knowledge, you can also go ahead and recreate this, which is the one I brought for the class, the other previous class. So I'll send the three of them. So this one now, you see security update, you write your name here. Security update, you write your name here. Or after this class, I'll just quickly recreate it. Or maybe let me just quickly recreate it now, so I'll just start by giving it a frame. Let me just, check the width and the height. 635,397. So 635,397, 635,397. Okay? And we have the field. The reason I'm doing this is so that we can at least see the procedure. And anyways, don't worry about that. We have a field, it doesn't have any corner radius, and then we have another auto layout inside. So this is a frame that is an auto layout. We have another frame inside that is also an auto layout. So I'm going to create that. Okay, let me give this one the fixed width 6 3 what 635397 635397 635397. Okay, we have an auto layout inside that has a fill color of white. Oh my god, this is going to take, but let me just quickly do it. So this internal auto layout, I'm going to position its element inside to the middle. I'm going to give this one a corner radius of 10 pixels. I believe that's why, no, maybe 20. And then I'm going to give it its own size of, I don't know. Let me just quickly check. So I have it to be 397. And then for the height, it's going to take my time. Oh, the height, I have it to be 282. 282. Okay. And this text, oh my god, security update pending. Update. So the text for now is aligned to the left. I'm going to align it to the middle. Okay, this is an auto layout. Oh yeah, this is a frame for now, but I'll convert it to an auto layout. Oh yeah. Well, nice. And okay, here. Oh, don't worry about this. I'll explain this in our next class. Just do this. Don't worry about this. Just work with this, and this. Don't worry about this. I'll explain how to do this in our next class. So this text, we are going to make it bold. And then we're going to increase the font size to 18. No more than 18, maybe 22. Yeah, I think so. And then we're going to create two rectangles under. Okay, this auto layout is position left to right. Let us position up to down. So this rectangle under, I'm just going to increase the size. You, of course, you bring the rectangle and measure it with this. Measure it, the height with this, right? But I won't do that. And the width too. But I won't do that because we don't have time. We have to proceed to our next class. And then the size, I'll give it maybe 10 so it can be round. I'll duplicate it. This one will be slightly shorter, right? I think this is too fat compared to that, right? Okay. I think it's manageable. I'll then bring this one, just take it up. Take it up. And then this, I'll create text, okay. Okay, let me just duplicate this and change it to okay. Okay. Reduce the font size to, let's say, 18. And then give it an auto layout. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, let me just still use the shortcut Shift A, or I can right click Shift A. So now the auto layout that I've given it, what am I trying to do? I want to create this frame around the text. So the auto layout I've given it, I will set it to fill the container for the width, fill, so it will, yeah, it will elasticate, just that there's padding here, but I'll reduce the padding very soon. And I'll give it up and down, just so that they can have, let me just set the color first so I can see what I'm doing. I'll pick this color. I'll select the text inside. I'll give the text the color of white. White is just the top here. I'll reduce the, I think semi-bold, yeah. And then let me just bring it down because I'm sure some of us are wondering about the layout. Let me bring it down. And then let me give it radius of maybe 20 or 15. So I can have this cut edges. So now the reason the elements are not growing is because the frame has padding. Look at 97. So let me give it padding of like 20. And then let me set it. Okay. First, I will, now let me remove that padding. And let me set it to assume this. I've set it as, I've given it a fixed width. So if I remove the padding, the elements inside are going to expand. 20. Yeah, or let's say 30, maybe 30. Yeah, I think 30 is good. And then up and down padding, maybe 45. Nope. Okay, even the space. Oh my god, this has taken so much of my time. And then this too, the height and the width. The height, just slightly bigger. Oh, you see, these two now, the distance between these two and these two is smaller. It's bigger than the distance between. So obviously, these two must have to be in one auto layout. So I'll select the both of them and put them in a single auto layout and reduce the distance between them to about 10. Yeah, look at it now. I think the distance is about 7 maybe. So we are getting there. I think I should increase the size of this to maybe 24. Yep, we're getting there. So it's almost the same, it's almost the same. So now what I mean is here now instead of writing pending, you now write your name, right? You now write your name. Alex Onyeka, so that I'll be sure you did it. So I will export this and I will send it after this class. So that will be all for today's class on UI UX. If there is anything you don't understand, just quickly you can privately send me a message. I will respond. I will be moving to the programming. So on our last, please let me just emphasize again. These are the assignments. I will send it in the group chat. Recreate this just the way I have my name here. Your name should be here. Recreate this. Your name should be here. Recreate this. Your name should be, instead of password not correct, you should have Alex password not correct. Right? Your name should be Ebere's password not correct. Chinanza password not correct. Zubi password not correct. So in our last class, we learned about data types. We learned about variables. We learned about how to use the print method. We learned about what else? Comments, right? Maybe I should quickly refresh it. Data type in that programming language, we have a couple of data types. We have string, which we use to represent text. We have integer, which is int. It is written as int, but it's integer, which we use to represent a whole number. We have double, which we use to represent a number with decimal points. We have bool, which is for boolean. The full name is boolean. It's used to represent true or false. So is this thing true? Is this thing false? We can use it to run function. We can use it to say, on our normal life, is today Sunday? If today is Sunday, go to church. If today is not Sunday, don't go to church. Is today Monday? If today is Monday, go to work. So programming is just how our brain works normally. So these are a couple of data types we have. And then variable is just like saving a value inside just a text, right? Basically, you save a value inside a text. So here now, okay, let me come again. The syntax in that, every programming language has its own syntax. In JavaScript, it has its own syntax. Python has its own syntax and the rest. But all of them will be the same principle: variable, function, and the rest. So the syntax in that to create a variable, first of all, you will have the data type of that variable. Data type is this thing I just explained: string, integer, double, boolean. you can have one of those. We will talk about two extra data types on this class today, right? So for now, let's work with this. You have the type of the data type. So let's say if you want to create a string, like now I want to save my name. I explained to us why we need to create variable, right? If I want to save my name, instead of always remembering some people's name could be very long. Like let's say my name is something like Alex Onyeka, Patrick, what? Patrick Chinagoromu. This is a very long sentence to always remember. Sometimes we'll forget, right? Let's say we want to display this on a couple of places in our application, right? We can't always go and be typing this in every time, right? So the initial time we remember, we are sure we could just save it in a variable called his name. Whenever we want to use it in a variable called whatever we want to call it, we can call it whatever we want to call it. Like we can name the variable whenever we want to, whatever we want to call it, and whenever we want to use it, we can, the name we give it is something we can easily remember. We'll just, instead of coming here to write this entire text, we'll just write the name of the variable, and it is just going to represent this text, right? So that's the idea of variable. So to create a variable in that programming language, the syntax is you write the data type that the variable is meant to store. So in this case, the variable is meant to store a text. So that's why the data type here is string. So you write the data type, the variable name, equality sign, and then the value. In this scenario here, the variable is meant to store an integer, that's a whole number. So we have to write the data type, which is int, the name of the variable. So in this case, my age. This is not my age. The name of the variable, in this case, my age, and then equality sign, and then the variable itself. So let me just quickly create another variable. Maybe I could say I want to store my job, right, or my profession. So I write the name of the data type of the variable, and then I would write let's say my skill, right? That's the name of the variable. Now I'll put equality sign, and then I'll actually, because I'm using yeah, thank God I remember this. We could use double quote or single quote. So when you want to write a text, you begin with single quotes, you have to round up the text with a single quote. Let's say here now that I started with double quotes, if I put a single quote here, it's going to create an error. It's going to create an error. Look at what it's telling me. Unterminated string literal. So it's telling me that we started a string here, we did not finish it because it's not recognizing that this guy is the one that is meant to finish. So if you start with single quote, but if we replace this one with a single quote, if we replace this guy with a single quote, is then of course going to finish it. So if you start a single quote, finish single quote, start double quote, finish double quote. So here now we wrote the data type of the variable, we wrote the name of the variable, equality sign, and then the actual value. So my skill, let's say a professional application developer. So that's actually my skill. So I would say one of my skills. So that's the syntax. See all the errors are gone. The data type, because this is a text, of course, the data type has to be string. The name of the variable, equality sign, the value, and then a semicolon to round off, right? So now we know the four intrinsic data types, which is string, which is integer, which is double, which is boolean. Let us look at a couple other data types. We have list. So now imagine that here, these two information, in fact, all this information are about, from here, sorry, are about myself. This is my name, this is my job or my skill, and this is my age. So here now, I'm just saving the three of them on three different variables, right? But what if we have a data type that can save a couple of values, like not just a single value? Here now we are saving string can only hold Daniel, you're welcome. String can only hold one value. The same with integer, the same with double, the same with boolean, just one value. But we could need more. We could need to save more values. Let's say my favorite colors, right? My favorite colors, I definitely do not have just one favorite colors. So in that case, I can go and say string, and then the name of the variable, that is the name of the variable, that is my favorite color 1, because I have a couple of favorite colors. So because string can only save just one value, so that means I'll have to define all of them like this. Now I will say black. Black is actually one of my favorite color. I'll go again and say string, my favorite color 2, right? I'll say blue. Blue is another of my favorite color, and then white. So, but this is not a very efficient way of working, because sometimes we could have up to, some girls could have up to like 10 different favorite colors and the rest, right? So sometimes we would even want related data to save related data, and that related data could be like up to 100, up to 50 different data that are related, right? In such scenario, to start creating all these variables will not be good. So in programming, there's something we call list. So list now is just as the name implies, it's meant to hold a list of data. So now we have to write the name of the data type, which is list, right? And then we'll specify the name. Let's say my favorite colors. So this one now is colors, because the list can hold a couple of a couple of values, right? Not just a single value. So now my favorite colors, I'll give it equality. So now remember, because it's not just a single value, we don't use quotes. It's not just a single value. Instead, what we use is this square bracket. So open square bracket and close square bracket. So let me put the semicolon here. So now in this case, the list is empty, it doesn't have any value. But if we want to then start imputing value inside, I will then say, let's say black, let's say blue, and white. These are my favorite colors, for real, actually. So these actually are my favorite colors, and I'm able to save 3 different values inside one variable name, because the data type of that variable is a list. If you notice, all these values are all string. I can also proceed to save an integer. Let's say maybe now I will now say my age now, which in this course is 35. That's not my real age, so I will then say 35. So I can save even different. I could also save a boolean value, which is maybe false. I could save a double, which is maybe 20.10. So the syntax is, you write the value, whatever it is. Here is a string. You write it, you use a comma to separate it. Write another one. So as many values as you want to save in this list, you save, but you just always use comma to separate the different values. If you notice, because I didn't use semicolon, quotes here, because it is an integer. If I use quotes, it would have converted it into a string. See, the color has changed from this gray to this deep red or whatever, because that is actually the color of a string. So, but here we want to actually save an integer, so we have to write it as a whole number, the same as this boolean. It is only for a string that you have to wrap it inside this column. Inside this quotes, right? So now this is a new data type. Use it to save a couple of data. So how do we, if you remember, let me quickly delete all this. If you remember, if we want to, let's say, display this value here, we'll just write this name. Let me do that. I will say print. I will say his name, right? If I should run this, network is not very stable, so it's going to be taking. Okay, no, that's not display. Let me just refresh quickly. So if I should run that, it's just going to. If I should run it, it's going to display only this value that is inside, of course, because it's just a single value that I saved inside this his name, right? If I just wrote his name the way it is, it's supposed to display here, so that we can proceed. Network is not very strong, so just pardon the delay. I'll still refresh again. Maybe I should increase the music so that we can be shaking our head as we're waiting for it. Yep, let me do that because I'm also enjoying the music. So let me run it. Well, as you can see, the network is not very encouraging. So literally, I don't really know what to do. I could say, okay, let me just be teaching. I trust us to be understanding, but nope, I'm not going to trust that, because we have to see the output of every function I run. Oh my gosh. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Yep, print. Printing out, printing out. Oh. Well, I'm left with just one option now. Hopefully it's going to run now. Okay, what we'll just do is, since it is revision to run today because network is bad, definitely not hopefully, I want to be very positive. On our next class, let me just quickly welcome Daniel, Ijomat, Esther. Okay, I'll just use Esther. You are welcome. This is a tradition. I have to welcome every member that joins every student that joins the class. I welcome Esther. So since it is not displaying, what I'm just going to do, because it has to display. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. Hopefully, on our next class is going to, the network is going to be better on our next class. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and explain the other data types, and then on our next class we are then going to use it. So here now, the new thing we learned, I revised on data types. The new thing we learned here is this list. In all these places, we have been saving data, single value in single variable. So, but today we have learned that we can save a couple of values in a list. So, just the way if we want to display this, my name, Alex, Onyeka, Patrick, Chinagoro, that's serious. We just write this single sentence, because this single word, it's just a word, because we have already saved all this long sentence inside this single word, right? Just write it. It's supposed to display, it's just data. So that's why we have done that. If we want to display any of this individual value, right? Don't forget that these are all values, individual values. That's why they are all separated by commas. Individual values that are saved inside this list of items. So if we want to display each of them, right? You want to display each of them, you can't just directly write the name of the entire. Let me create a new print method. You can't just directly write the name of the entire variable this way. If you write the name of the entire variable this way, it's not going to display an individual value, right? It's not going to work. Instead, how to access one of these values? Let's say I want to display the blue. Now, this is a very important concept in programming. We have to be very attentive. Let me explain this. In programming, I don't know, there are a lot of memes out there, maybe we would have come across one or two of them. When you want to start counting elements in an array, so it is called index number. It is called index number, right? Elements of an array. Each of these elements have an index number that you can use to identify that element, right? So for this first element, of course, if you want to count, you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6. So there are 6 elements inside this array. But so if there are 6 elements, obviously the first element should have a number of 1. But that's not how it is in programming. In an array, the first element has an index number of 0. So a single trick is just when you count it, you get the normal value, you subtract 1 from it. It's very important because you cannot, I would say, refer the exact element if you refer that element by the actual value of that element. I mean by the actual number of that element. So let's say this is 1, 2, 3. If I want to refer this element here, I can't say the element in number 3. I will say the element in index number 2 because it is starting from 0. This black is in index 0. This is index 1. This is index 2. This is index 3. This is index 4. This is index 5. I don't know if we got that. Let me just go over it again. In an array or in a list, in JavaScript it's called array, in Dart it's called list. So in a list, elements in that list, if you want to identify them, you can identify them with their index number. And then the index number is beginning from 0. It's not starting from 1. So elements in position 1, we have an index number of 0. Elements in position 2, we have an index number of 1. Elements in position 3, we have an index number of 2. So in that case, if I want to now display one of these elements, let's say I want to display white, I will then use, as I have written the name, the actual name of the array. Should I delete this one so that we can directly see? Or let me move this one to the top. Let me just quickly move this one to the top, so that you can be close to what I'm explaining. So after I've written the actual name of the array, just the way I wrote when I wanted to display this name here, I wrote the actual name because it is a single value element. It will just display the value. But this array that has a couple of values, you can't just write the name and what are you planning to display? Everything? No, it doesn't work that way. If you want to display a single element like this white, right? After you have written the name of the array, you will then open and close the square bracket that you use to create the array, right? After you have opened and closed that square bracket, you will then enter the index number of that element. So in this case, I want to display white. I will then say this is in number 1, but it has an index number of 0. This one has an index number of 1. It has an index number of 2. So I will then enter 2 here. See, our error has gone. So in this case, if I should run this, if it runs, you will see that this array will just print only this white. So that means the function is going to enter the array, because I wrote the array name. It's going to enter the array. If it enters the array, it's going to run through all the elements, look for the element that has the index number of this 2. So in this case, this one has 0, this one has 1, this one has 2. And it's going to assume that this entire sentence here is this. Entire sentence, I would say entire whatever, is this. So this entire thing represents this. So initially when I wrote only this, the name of the array, the entire text represents this entire array, right? When I narrowed it down by saying, okay, inside this entire array here, just give me the elements that has an index number of 2. So it's then going to drill into the array and to check this guy. This one has an index number of 0. This has an index number of 1. This has an index number of 2. And then it's going to then output the element that has an index number of 2 whenever I run this. So if I should run it, just that the network is bad, if I should run it, white is what is going to be outputted. So this is a very, very important concept in programming. Very, very, very important. How to drill into array. Let's hope it runs this time. How to drill into array and extract a value inside a couple of elements. Even if there are 200 elements, you just have to look for the index number of that element, and you write the array name, and you open and close square bracket, and inside the square bracket you put the index number of that element. it's going to display that element wherever you want to use it. If you want to call it and use it to do something, it's going to, do that. I can see that this is already 3 minutes to 9. What I would do is, because I'm realizing that the design is taking most of our time, and I don't want it to be so, because this programming has a lot to, has a lot of, I should even spend more time on the programming than the design, right? So what I'll do is, in our next class, I'll begin from programming, right? Or even if I don't begin from programming, um, I will not spend much time on design. Another thing again that is taking my time is, when the class begins, I'll be waiting for people to join, right? So that I don't leave them behind. Because it's not going to be nice, you join when class has already started, you don't really know where we are, right? So that's why I try to wait, but that's also eating into our time. Like today we started by almost 25 minutes past 7 or so. That's like 25 minutes of our time gone, right? And I have a project I want to start working on now, and I will be working till maybe 1 a.m. in the night also. So I can't spend another 25 minutes in this class, right? So in our next class, even if I'm starting with the design, I won't spend more time on the design, and I will start almost immediately by 7 a.m. 7 p.m. So once I'm able to go live on YouTube, maybe I'll just wait for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and I'll start, right? So anybody that joins later will just probably know how to, cope. So this is what we have for now, and this is as far as I can go for today. Thank you very much for joining the class, and I'll be sending for the design, I'll be sending what's it called? I'll be sending the design templates that you'll be working on. I'll be sending it probably this night, and I expect us, I'm not going to stress on it, I won't do that. I expect us to just do what should be done, right? And submit, so that you can help yourself by practice. So I wish you success in your learning journey. Have a good night.